With restrictions increasing, we become unwelcome visitors everywhere we go. We're anxiously looking for somewhere we can stop for supplies, but are constantly being moved on from place to place. In the last 4 years since leaving England, we have crossed 2 oceans and sailed over halfway around the world. Join us on board our 37-foot yacht Florence as we continue our voyage of discovery, exploring new oceans, countries and cultures.
Just making our way south through the Banyak Islands. Spent a few days exploring beautiful desert islands, and now we're working our way south towards somewhere where hopefully we can get supplies. Just working our way upwind, which is not something we usually do, but along this coast we've been getting a lot of southerly winds, which is unfortunately exactly where we want to go. The wind's against us, and also we've got a current against us that's at least a knot, so it's pretty slow going. Not much progress, but there's supposed to be an anchorage just round the corner here that we should be able to just get to before nightfall, so we can stop and sleep for the night instead of drifting around all night. Because normally the wind dies off at night, so there's no point being out there in no wind going nowhere.
At times, there's only just enough wind to sail, so everything happens in slow motion. We have to back the foresail in order to steer the bow through the wind when we want to tack. There's not actually enough wind to pop the battens in the mainsail, so Matt has to go and flick the boom in order to make the battens pop manually.
So we're zigzagging our way upwind here to this anchorage, and normally we can try and work out roughly what the wind's going to do from the clouds, but around us here you've just got so many different types of clouds. I really can't tie any of the clouds into what we're seeing on the water in terms of wind shifts. It's a little bit all over the place. To our north we've got a big thundercloud that's been building all day. Over our heads we kind of got a mackerelly sky, and just left of the bow we've got this big thundery cloud over there building up, so kind of a bit of everything going on all around us. We've been having a lot of thunderstorms here, so we can see some big thunderclouds building up, so we're probably going to get a thunderstorm again tonight. But it doesn't really make sense with what the wind's doing. We're getting shifts of 30 or 40 degrees left and right, pretty hard. So we're trying to tack to keep in phase with them, which we would normally do if we're racing. You don't normally bother if you're cruising, but we really want to get to this anchorage before it gets dark this evening. So we're trying to take all the favourable shifts we can.
Okay, Matt's talking technical. I'll try to explain. Sailing boats can't sail directly into the wind. If we tried to do that, then our sails would just flap and we'd go backwards. So what we have to do is sail at an angle about 45 degrees to the wind and then zigzag towards our destination. This is really slow because it means we have to sail twice the distance that we would normally do, and that's the reason that most cruising boats avoid sailing into the wind whenever possible. In reality, the wind never blows in a consistent direction, and it shifts back and forth from its average. So we can take advantage of those shifts to sail a shorter distance to our destination. As you can see from the green course, if we take advantage of those shifts and tack in phase with the shifts, we can shorten our distance to our destination. But from the red course, you'll see what happens if we get out of phase with those shifts. We end up sailing a much greater distance and taking longer to get to our destination.
Well, we made it into the anchorage just before sunset, and we were hoping to stay there for 2 nights because there's some wind forecast coming in a couple of days' time that would allow us to sail on south. But as we were anchoring, a boat came out from the resort and told us that there were no yachts allowed to anchor there whatsoever. The officials were trying to get rid of all the yachts. In fact, they'd also told the owner and staff of the resort that they had to leave the island as well. So this morning at dawn, in no wind whatsoever, we set out and we're motoring south. We don't like burning diesel at the best of times, but right now we've got the added pressure that we don't know where we're going to be allowed to stop and buy more fuel. So it's a little bit concerning.
What happened?
Well, we've arrived into the harbour here and it's really calm and protected, and so far we've had a fairly good reception. There's lots of fishing boats passing who are all waving, and there's a big cargo boat on the dock loading coconuts, and they're all waving at us and saying to come over and say hello. But we're going to stay where we are for now and see how the reception is this evening. And if nobody comes and tells us to move on, then we'll try going ashore and see if we can get some fuel and some provisions here. Well, we were tolerated for 2 nights here, but unable to go ashore for supplies. Then we were asked to move on again.
So this is life in isolation continuing for us. We were asked to leave the last port we went into, although they did give us some diesel, even though we actually had to have it smuggled out to us after dark by boat with no lights, because they weren't supposed to help us, I don't think, but it was the harbour master that was helping us. He was quite friendly in the end. And we've just come down. There's a remote island just over here, which we were hoping to anchor at, but there is a small village on it. We weren't going to go ashore, we were just going to anchor off it for the night. But there's a boat ahead of us. We haven't seen any other yachts for a while. It's actually one of our friends, and they messaged us to say they were just approaching that island and they were called up on the radio and asked not to anchor there. So we're going to head down to some islands a little bit further on. There's no anchorage in the pilot book further on, but we've seen some places on the satellite image that might look like they're possible. And the boat in front of us has got some information from another boat that went through here a few days ago. So hopefully it is going to be a tenable anchorage for the night. And it would be nice maybe to have some social interaction at a distance, or at least be in company with another boat for a change, because we've been quite a long time on our own, and in these situations where we keep getting moved on, it is quite anxious. And just actually having another boat close to us in company, although that means we're more likely to be moved on because there's 2 of us, we're a group, it'd be nice to actually have someone else around us for a little bit of moral support at the moment. And for a change, we've got wind. So we just put that nice new spinnaker up, the asymmetric spinnaker. We wouldn't be able to hold our old spinnaker this tight to the breeze, so we're sailing about 80 degrees apparent at the moment. And this one's flying absolutely beautifully. It's added a knot and a half to our boat speed over just having the genoa up. The boat we've got ahead of us, you might recognise if you watched our video about going up the river in Borneo and seeing the orangutans. These are the guys that actually joined us on the local boat for that trip up the river. It's a pretty small world, the sailing community sometimes.
Unfortunately, the backup anchorage we were heading for also turned out to be unsuitable.
Our mates ahead of us tried this first position that was supposed to be good, and it seemed like a bit of a rocky bottom. Their anchor didn't hold, so we're now proceeding on through this small group of islands to another place that looks a little bit good on the satellite image. It's all we've really got to go on. The charts around here aren't very accurate. They don't really tell you what the bottom type is reliably, and they don't even tell you what the depth is reliably in a lot of places. So we're navigating by satellite image here.
So we're using the Untitled app on our phone, and we can download the images when we do have internet, and then we can zoom in, and we also have our GPS position. So all we really have to go on is the changes in colour and any bits of coral that we can see.
Well, after splitting up and trying several different spots, we eventually found this spot, and Cheetah have come over here as well. It's about 13-14 metres deep. Seems to be a consistent sand bottom. The anchor set well, and it's really nice and calm. So it's a real relief to find somewhere that we can actually stop for the night and not have to carry on, because that's our other option. If we couldn't find somewhere to anchor, we just have to carry on sailing through the night, do night watches, or in fact motoring, drifting through the night, and then try to go on to the next place and hope we don't get moved on from there. But there's no village ashore here. It's isolated. It has some protection from some islands, so hopefully nobody will have too much of a problem with us staying here. It's not really a long-term anchorage though if a storm comes through, so we probably will still move on tomorrow. So we're on the move again. We're trying to move down to the south end of this island, and then in a couple of days' time we're going to try and get down just south of the equator, where we've heard that there's going to be a place where a group of yachts can actually get together, an isolated island, and one of the shipping agents ashore has arranged for us to be able to get supplies there. So hopefully that might be somewhere we can stay longer term and try and wait out this crisis, which will be great, because it's really anxious moving from anchorage to anchorage, not knowing where you're going to be welcome, or in fact knowing you're not actually welcome anywhere, and with the difficulties getting food and fuel. But obviously we're going to need cash for that, so this is the last place where there is a cash point, so we're going to try to get down here and try and safely, without exposing ourselves too much, get ashore and get some cash. So we've been motoring along with Cheetah behind us for most of the morning, heading on to this next anchorage. But the breeze has just kicked in, so we've got a little bit of wind from behind. We've unfurled the genoa, and we're managing to sail now at 3 knots, which is great. It is a good angle for the spinnaker, but we've got a big thunderstorm just on our port hand side, so don't really want to put that up just in case we get a big squall come through really quickly. But I think we're definitely going to put the mainsail up now and see if we can sail a little bit faster and make use of the wind.
That thunderstorm did eventually reach us and turn the wind direction on its head, meaning that we had to make a rapid change of sail settings on Florence.
That's complete change as the rain came on, from dead downwind now beating on the same course. But at least we got wind and we're moving. After 3 weeks of being asked to leave ports and constantly move on, not being able to stop, not being able to buy food, we've finally been given sanctuary by the very kind people on the island of South Nias.
Yes, we have been designated a local person who has been helping us with our shopping, so that we don't need to go ashore, and we've also been able to fully stock with fuel. So
now we've already got plenty of cooking gas on board. We've got about 4 months worth of cooking gas on board, and lots of dried stores, because we were planning to cross the Indian Ocean this year, so we were actually planning to be at sea for at least a couple of months.
But the big relief for us is that the region regional government have actually allocated an anchorage that yachts in the area who have no place to go can stay until this situation blows over.
And they've also paused our visas, which is quite important because we only had 2 months worth of visa to be here, and we can't go anywhere else because all of the other countries in this area and pretty much in the world are closed to foreign visitors, so we can't go anywhere else. But they've paused our visas so we can stay here for as long as the crisis persists, or stay in that particular anchorage as long as the crisis persists. So here we are at sea again. We are sailing south. We've been given an island, not given an island, it would be nice if we were given an island, but effectively we've been allowed to stay at an island, a remote island, uninhabited, by the Indonesian government, or the Indonesian region that we're in. And us and about 12 other yachts have been told we can all go there, and they will supply us with food, but it's a place where we can be isolated. We're not near any village, which means we'll actually be able to go ashore, get some exercise on a little beach that's there, which we haven't been able to do for a couple of weeks now. We've been stuck on the boat, understandably, nobody wants us ashore. It's very light winds. I suspect we're going to have to motor a lot of this, but it's only about 70 miles down to this anchorage. And I think once we're there, we're probably going to be there for a few months until this all sorts itself out. So the breeze has actually picked up a little bit as the sun's going down. Got about 11 or 12 knots of breeze apparent. Probably drop off a little bit once the sun actually goes, but hopefully we'll be able to actually sail through night. It's pretty rare to be able to sail all the way on a leg in these parts of the world because the wind is so light, but the forecast did say we might have some, and it was consistent for a few days, the forecast, and both models agreed, so hopefully we'll have some wind. We won't have to turn the engine on.
No such luck. By 10 PM there was absolutely no wind and we had to motor through the night. But at least we had a full moon to light our way.
Well, the sun's just coming up and the wind's come back. Unfortunately last night the wind completely died and we had to motor about 25 to 30 miles of the journey here. We've got enough wind to sail again now this morning, so turn the motor off and we're sailing into the anchorage. Next time we finally set foot on land and explore the island where we will be staying for the next few months in isolation.
Thank you to everybody who supports us to share this adventure.
We would especially like to thank our star patrons for their support in making these videos possible.
Alan Becky,
Kate and Peter Adkins,
Rob and Rima,
John Bowler,
Samuli Yarvanen,
Paul Stalbert,
William Thua,
Eduardo and Tess Wannick,
Pete Bassel,
Frank Del Vecchio.
Daniel and Robert.
Thanks guys, see you next time.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to join the crew and support the making of these videos, then please click the link to our Patreon site above.